morning, boys and girls. Welcome back. If you remember last week, we had some licorice along with us, and I didn't bring any today. Maybe Peter and I ate it all after the last one, but boys and girls, more licorice for another time. But do you remember why we had the licorice? What did the licorice represent? A long rope, that's right, Peter. And the long rope was used to help spies escape from somewhere. That's right, they got let down out of a window. And if I remember right, there was a lady who had helped them get out, and they made a promise to her, right? Yeah, that's right. They made a promise to Rahab that they would protect her when they came and attacked the city of Jericho. So hopefully that brings your mind back up to speed. It helped jar my memory on everything we had talked about the last time. Well, boys and girls, Joshua, who is leading the children of Israel, sees this city. He sees the city of Jericho, and he's not sure what to do about it. So it's a strong city. It's a fortified city with a wall. And the people in Canaan land, in the promised land, boys and girls, in Joshua chapter 5, it tells us they were actually afraid of Joshua and the Israelites. They're scared. They saw them cross the river. They saw the waters part so that they could get across. And they're like, if they can do that, what can they do to us? So the people of Jericho are getting a little nervous, but Joshua doesn't know how he's going to fight them. Well, in Joshua chapter 5, boys and girls, someone comes to visit Joshua who helps Joshua out. In verse number 13 of chapter 5 of Joshua, it says, "And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him and said unto him, Art thou for us or for our adversaries?" He's like, you have a sword drawn, and I don't know if you're on my side or the other side. So Joshua's a little nervous. Okay, verse 14, and he said, "Nay, but as captain of the host of the Lord am I now come." And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and did worship and said unto him, "What saith my Lord unto his servant?" He says, "You've come from God. What is the message you have for me?" Verse number 15, and the captain of the Lord's host said unto Joshua, "Loose thy shoe from off thy foot, for the place whereon thou standest is holy." And Joshua did so. He goes on in chapter 6, which is where we're going to spend most of our time this morning, boys and girls, and he tells him how to defeat Jericho, how he's going to get victory over this city that's fortified and protected against them. Well, Jericho at this time, verse 1 kind of sets the stage. It says they've been shut up. They can't come in, they can't come out because the Israelites are outside of it. There are two enemy camps, and one's outside the fort, one's inside the fort. And the message that God has for Joshua, boys and girls, it's not a battle plan we would use today. It's one we'd sit there and go, what? This doesn't make sense. You'd scratch your head and be like, could you repeat that? Sometimes my students think I give them crazy instructions. And I'm like, no, I just want you to obey. And that's kind of what God is doing here. He says, I want you to obey. I want you to do what I've asked. Well, what is this crazy plan that he has? Well, he says, that's right. It's going to deal with the number 7. He tells them that they are to walk around the city. And I do wish, I was telling Peter earlier, I wish I had you boys and girls here so we could get up and walk and practice this, because telling it to a camera is a little different than telling it to a group of kids, but we're going to do our best. So we are going to have to imagine, maybe you can get up and walk around the couch or something at home, but they're getting ready for battle. And Joshua says, all right, this is what we're going to do. Ready? Everybody's going, even the kids. Everybody's coming. Nobody's staying home. Yep, Peter, you can come too. Everybody. Wait, do you normally take the kids into battle with you? I mean, this is already starting to sound kind of strange, but he says, all right, we're going to take everybody with us. They're going to take everybody, and the command was that they were to march around the city. They're supposed to follow the priests. The priests were going to blow on their horns, and then they were going to follow and march around the city. Like, just walk around it. Now, I've heard some of you walk. I've heard you stomp. I've told some of you to walk quietly in the hallway before. I still don't think if you stomped as hard as you could that you're going to make a wall fall down. You might make a picture fall off the wall, but I don't think you're going to make a wall. And remember, this wall is so wide that Rahab's house is sitting on top of it. This isn't a thin wall. And he says, I want you to walk around it. And okay, you're going to walk around it. I know how some of you walk again down the hallway. You have a hard time keeping quiet or not talking to your neighbor or, taking your neighbor's shoe off while you're walking. I've walked down the hall a few times. But let's hear about what Joshua tells the people. He tells them, except I lost the verse, boys. There it is, verse 10. And Joshua had commanded the people, saying, Ye shall not shout, nor make any noise with your voice, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth, until the day I bid you shout. Then shall ye shout. Boys and girls, they had to walk around the entire city perfectly quiet. Okay, we're in this new building for school, and we have to walk through a section where the college is, and we're not allowed to talk. Okay, that section's not that long when you think about walking around an entire city without saying a single word. I don't know about you boys and girls, but as an adult, I'd have a hard time doing that. To walk along that far and not say anything, and not saying anything includes not complaining about how far you have to walk and how you're thirsty and want to drink, but they had to do that. So they do that. They get up day one, boys and girls, and they walk around the city without talking. Day two, same thing. They get up, they walk around the city without talking. Now, if you're on the inside of the city, you're in Jericho, and you see all the people walking around, don't you think, yeah, I think they're crazy too, Peter. I think I'd be questioning it. So, day three, though, I'd be looking out for them. Be like, what is this plan? Day three, they get up, they walk around the city. Day four, they get up and they walk around the city. Day five, they get up and they walk around the city. And day six, I think by then they're probably thinking, how much longer are we going to have to do this? And the people in the city are probably getting quite used to it. Like, okay, there goes those crazy people again, just walking around the city. Wonder what they're doing today. Day seven's a little bit different. They get up, but instead of just one time, they have to walk around 7 times. Seven times around the city with their lips zipped. Not saying a word. Not making a noise with their mouth. You know what, boys and girls? They obeyed. They did exactly what God asked them to do. They didn't talk. They followed like they were supposed to. The priests blew the trumpets when they were supposed to. Well, on day 7, after that 7th time, the trumpets blew and the people were allowed to shout. And as they shouted to the Lord, they praised the Lord, they shouted, nothing happened. No, that's not how it goes. Yeah, that would be a really, really sad ending to the story. I hope you boys and girls are still listening. I do that to my students sometimes just to get their attention. That's not how our story ends. When they do that the 7th time and they shout, those walls crumble down like our stick just did, into bits and pieces. I mean, that city is obliterated. Oh, what about Rahab's house? That's right. God had made a promise, right, to protect Rahab's house. And pinky promise, he did exactly that. Rahab's house stood firm. Her section of the wall didn't crumble. Everyone inside of her house was safe. Well, the people inside of the city are now in a mass panic. They do not know what to do about all of this. And Joshua and the Israelites were able to easily conquer Jericho by obeying exactly what God had told them to do. Well, they did great at obeying that, boys and girls. They obeyed. They walked around. They were quiet. Yeah, pat on the back. They did a good job. But God had given them another command. And that command was when they went into that city, they weren't supposed to take anything out for themselves. This city was wholly dedicated to God. They were supposed to keep 0, as Peter's showing us, 0 things for themselves. We're going to find out next week whether they obeyed that command. But I'm really glad they obeyed the first command, and they did exactly what they were supposed to in defeating it. And God kept his promise, and he protected Rahab. Back to our scarlet rope, though, Peter. Do you remember how they knew which house was supposed to be protected? Obviously, God knew, but that's right. Rahab was supposed to put that scarlet cord out the window, and she did. And all the people in her house were protected. Boys and girls, I hope this week you'll think about how obedient the people were, and that God rewards obedience. On the flip side, he punishes disobedience. Boys and girls, I hope this week you'll choose to obey when your teacher asks you to be quiet walking down the hall, or while she's teaching, or while you're supposed to be working, or in Sunday school. I hope you'll be quiet. But I hope you'll do mostly because that's what God wants you to do, boys and girls. Not because that's what I'm asking you to do or your teachers, but because God is asking you to obey. Obey first, boys and girls, right away and with a good heart attitude. We'll see you next week.